Okay, well, good afternoon, everyone. We're here live, actually, at the Ark Encounter. And I'm going to follow along here on my phone. So I'm going to go to the video right now and see if I can connect. And I see people starting to come on board. That's really great. That's why I talk about nothing for about 2 minutes. I have some special guests here, but I'll ignore them for the moment as I see people are starting to come online. And we would appreciate you putting any comments that you can there as well. Also, tell us where you're from. And I tell you what, this time of the week as well, you could tell us what the temperature's like where you are, because actually it's been freezing here in northern Kentucky. But, we've got quite a number of people coming online now. I love to see those emojis coming across the screen. Send more emojis, lots of emojis. Okay, that helps with the people reach there. We have two special guests with us today. First of all, I have here Thomas Purifoy. Did I say that right?
You did. You said just right.
It's a little bit harder to say than ham.
It is. It's tough. It's
and actually, Thomas is the director of a movie many of you have seen, or you wanted to see, and you have another opportunity to see, or you wanted to take your family and friends to, and you're going to have another opportunity to do that, is Genesis History.
It is, yes, it is Genesis History. I directed it with Del Tackett. Dr. Del Tackett is here, and he was the guide for the film and pretty much was the one in front of the camera. I very rarely get in front of a camera. It always makes me mildly nervous to be in front of the camera.
Yeah, I mean, he was able to talk to geologists and biologists and astronomers.
Oh, it's extraordinary. I mean, every time we showed up, what was neat was to watch how they would react to Del. Although the best was with Steve Austin, who would, as we went through the Grand Canyon, he would regularly take selfies and say, "Look, I'm here with Del Tackett," wherever we were, and send them to his friends. But it was neat because of the respect that the scientists had for Del, right, and for him having a doctorate and his work in computer science. But
well, let me tell people why we're here and why we're filming
absolutely
here at the Ark today. And then, if you want to ask Del Tackett, here's your opportunity. Anywhere in the world, if you want to ask Del Tackett a question, you can do that. And we just had the lights go out, but that's fine. Okay. We will keep going.
And there
we are. Let there be light, and there was light. See that?
That was appropriate.
I got that from Genesis. Did you know that? So here we are at the Ark, and you're actually going to have another Fathom event. So that means Is Genesis History is going to be shown in theaters across America again on February 22nd.
That's right.
Of course, you know the question I get asked, why can't we have it in Australia? Why can't we have it in England? Why can't we have it in Canada? What's your answer to that, by the way, Thomas?
Well, I mean, so the distribution is actually, we have to have a distributor over there who wanted to pick it up. So if there were a distributor in Australia or Canada, or in this case the UK, who wanted to show the film, we'd be happy to show it there.
Someone said, I watched the movie while deployed in Afghanistan.
Oh, wow.
How about that? I thought it was an excellent collection of research. Particularly enjoyed the section on DNA, which was relatively new research that I didn't know about. Thank you for putting on this movie. So, I mean, wow, that's incredible, isn't it?
It's very incredible.
Here's the interesting thing. At the end of the movie, you had a segment that you're replacing now with a new segment, and you have filmed today at the Ark. Well, tell us, Del, what did you do here today?
Well, it's something very special because I have a heart for college students, and so we have three students from Wheaton College, and we've had the privilege to simply tour the Ark, the inside, stand on the outside, and gaze at this amazing thing that has been constructed here from the specifications in Genesis. And so we have been touring together, and that is going to be the final segment when the film is released in February 22nd. So you'll be able to see that, which I think would be very exciting.
So if people have seen the movie before, they need to go again. You need to go again anyway, because believe me, you know, I've watched it more than once, and every time you watch it, you get more out of it, and then you say, wow, I didn't really recognize that point before, and you hear more. But this time you can also see this segment filmed at the Ark, and to see it in the theaters on the big screen is going to be absolutely tremendous. But I think there's a lot of people that realized when they went and saw the movie, they were thinking about family members. They were thinking about non-Christian friends that they wanted to be there at the theater. And now here's your opportunity to be able to take your friends and family, and you can even see it again. And this time, the segment at the end is changed,
Yes.
filmed here at the Ark with 3 college students.
That's correct.
So it's going to be interesting to hear what they have to say and what you had to say to them.
I think that'll be very interesting for people to see that and to hear the students and their reaction to this, their reaction to this whole issue on their campus. But other than that, I think the ability to see the Is Genesis History in the big theater with the big screen and the sound, I think people will enjoy it. And if they haven't seen it, if your family hasn't or friends haven't, bring them to see it.
Thomas, you're the director of this movie. By the way, if people want to get tickets now for the Fathom event on February 22nd, when will the tickets be available, and where do they go to get the tickets?
So they go to get the tickets at isgenesishistory.com. That's we'll link there to the tickets, and I think they go on sale January 8th. What happens is the theaters all come online. The way it's distributed is it'll be select theaters across the United States. It's kind of Fathom is a joint venture between AMC and Cinemark and Regal. So all the theaters come in and they kind of start adding them in. So start looking on January 8th on isgenesishistory.com, and if your theater's available, and then here's the other thing, they keep adding theaters on as it goes along. So sign up for updates. There's a little place to sign, put your email address on, and if there's not a ticket available for you now, there could be in a month or so.
And if they see that their theater in their area is going to be showing the movie, they could even get the tickets direct from the movie theater, right? That's
correct. And we'll also be offering group tickets. There's a place online where you can request group tickets, and we found a lot of people first time out got group tickets to it, and it was kind of neat to see that a lot of folks. I mean, I know in Colorado Springs there were a lot of groups. Yes. We had a theater in actually outside of Nashville that what did it do? It went from one. We had a friend of mine who went from one theater to 2 theaters, meaning like in screens. So 1 screen to 2 screens to 3 screens to 4 screens. Like, what did they end up with?
They ended up all 8 screens in that theater showed the Is Genesis History film that night.
You can put the microphone up to tell.
Go ahead, you tell that all 8.
Yeah, all 8 screens in that theater were showing the Is Genesis History. That's the only film they showed that night, and that was just simply because there were so many people, and even then they didn't have enough seats for everybody.
That was amazing. So, Thomas, why did you want to do a movie like this?
Well, I mean, honestly, it's kind of funny. It was my 10-year-old daughter, a conversation after watching, the debate you had with Bill Nye. That was what started this. So in a sense, you kind of have a responsibility about this.
Oh, okay.
It was that I started talking to my 10-year-old daughter about questions she had, and I thought, maybe there should be a documentary on this. And so Dell and I had met years before, and I really realized that they're really looking for a man that was articulate and had the scientific chops and had the national recognition and had great confidence. And then, of course, what's interesting about Dell is he had done the Truth Project, and in a very exciting way, he's going to be doing, worth reading, he's doing The Engagement, which is the follow-on to the Truth Project, is going to be probably launching this year in terms of the filming of it. Right.
Hey, somebody said here, we saw it and loved it. I bought it for my husband for Christmas. Now you know what you need to do? You need to take your husband for his birthday. No, for a New Year's present. How's that?
New Year's present.
To the movie, in the theater, and to be able to see the new segment at the end, which is Dal walking around with 3 college students from Wheaton College, actually, walking through the Ark, around the Ark, and hearing what they have to say.
Yes. That'll be a great ending for him to see. So you need to take him to the Ark.
So there you are. Somebody here asked a question too. They said, what about in Canada? And I know it's not being shown in theatres in Canada, but they said, could Canadian churches somehow be able to stream the movie?
That's a great question. Oh, so right now, you can't stream the movie.
Our ministry's Answers in Genesis. We don't. Well, I just don't want you to talk about questions. I want you to talk about answers here.
Well, I know it's not questions in Genesis. Well, so actually, you can the movie now can be shown in Canada with a group license. So we already have church licenses where churches can go show the film. The day the film will be showing on February 22nd, Fathom doesn't actually distribute into Canada, but you still could show it by getting a group license and showing the film.
So how do they do that?
IsGenesisHistory.com has all the licenses for group license, and I know Lifeway is selling group licenses. In Canada, there is Parasource Ministries. So we have a Canadian distributor called Parasource, and they provide all the Canadian licenses.
Now, somebody here just talked to somebody and said, my birthday is February 23. I think people are starting to realize, hey, you need to take me to this movie for my birthday.
Well, it was on her birthday last year.
That's a great birthday gift. And it doesn't cost much either, does it? I mean, a movie ticket is not that much when you think about it. So if anyone wants to ask Thomas, the director, and the visionary behind actually is Genesis History.
A
movie.
group vision. I was reading. It's funny. I was reading a quote by Steve Jobs the other day, when he said, if you want to do anything really great, you have to have a team.
Yep.
And so I think that's what's the big deal. Is finding first, you got to find a good guy to lead it, and you got to find good people to do it. So Genesis History was a team effort. A lot of people. It's rare for me to be in front of the camera, but that was actually. I'll mention this, which is what made
in fact,
it exciting.
You didn't even want to go in front of the camera.
I did not
here.
want to go in front of the camera.
I had to grab you by the neck and throw you down
It's
on
true.
the seat here.
But it's because, being here at the Ark, and when they offered us and said, hey, we want you to bring it back, it seemed very natural for us to come do this and do a film in the Ark. And I emailed you, I think, the day that they asked us and said, okay, I think this would be a neat way to do it, because seeing the Ark, and it's huge. You can't really see it here, but if you've been to see it, you realize how big it is.
Right.
I think it brings the reality of the history of Genesis to light, and you see it in a very honest, real. You touch it, and you can see it.
Actually,
These kids,
we're sitting here right now in Noah's living quarters.
right?
And so we have the bedrooms for Noah and his wife and sons and wives, and also the kitchen, and see all the vegetables behind us and so on. This is just one little section, one tiny little section of the Ark.
A tiny section.
Here on the third deck. But somebody said, is there going to be a follow-up to Is Genesis History? Before you answer that, let me answer it, and then you can answer it next. The follow-up is February 22nd with the new segment at the end. That's follow-up number one, right? That's follow-up number one. So come to the theaters to see Is Genesis History, February 22nd, and go to isgenesishistory.com. January 8, tickets will be available, and come and see it, and see the new segment at the end, which is filmed here at the Ark. I'm excited to see that on the big screen myself, to see it at the Ark, and to see what Dal and those students discussed, because I wasn't here for that interview.
It's very interesting material. It was a great interview. I think very articulate students. Wheaton, as I was saying, it's a great school, and these kids are a great representation of Wheaton. Articulate, smart. We had a physics major, and a mechanical engineer, and a communications.
And they started a creation society there.
They started a creation, and that was how I got to know them, is they asked me to come show the film on campus. And so we went and showed it, and got to meet a lot of the kids, and I realized, these would be great.
There was some debate there on campus, wasn't there?
There was some debate. There was some. They got a little pushback, I think, but it was really, I was there for both the event and then for a discussion afterward. And the professors very gracious, even those who disagree. Extremely gracious group of professors there, and have a lot of respect for them.
Well, I'm glad you could actually show the movie on a campus like that, and these students too have started a creation society there. But you'll hear them in this segment as you walk around the Ark. But what about any more follow-up?
Well, for follow-up stuff, and what I was going to say though is that we actually label any students anywhere. If they want to show the film on campus, we'll provide it free to them. And so maybe if we can, we'll bring a professor out. So one of the scientists, in this case, one of the scientists from the film came out. And I think that's an example of a follow-up. We want people to use this film as a tool. So if they want to take it to their school, they can. If they want to take it to their college, as a follow-up actual material, so we just released Beyond Is Genesis History. So Beyond Is Genesis History Volume 1, Rocks and Fossils, which includes, in the film we only had a small section with Andrew Snelling. So right. Andrew got, 12 minutes. In this, we have 4 20-minute videos of Andrew. So 2 of him talking about radioisotopes, 1 of him talking at Sedona, and 1 of him talking in SP Crater about catastrophic plate tectonics. And so we have released it's all the material that didn't make it into the film of all these incredible interviews.
So they go to isgenesishistory.com.
Go to isgenesishistory.com, and it's on Amazon. So Amazon Video has it, and as well as our website. And there are really some gems in there. Includes all the material with all some of these guys. You remember this.
Yeah, let me tell you that when we went out to interview these scientists, it wasn't just going into an office and having a few-minute interview. We met them in the field, so we flew in together. We had, in some cases, 2 or 3 days with these scientists. And so we have literally hours of those interviews. And the painful for me, I'm sure painful for you, was how to take a snapshot out of those several hours in order to fit it into the documentary. In fact, there were 3 interviews we did that couldn't even make the film. And
bonus features.
so what we're going to do in what Tom's is doing in Beyond His Genesis History is you're going to be seeing a lot of those other incredible parts of the interview.
Yeah.
So,
Go ahead.
so I was going to say, sort of follow up what you were saying there. Somebody said, Dal, what do you think is the best favourite evidence argument for creation, the flood? I mean,
Well,
you went through all those interviews, right?
Yes, and I know people have laughed at me because when I did the Truth Project, every time we started a new tour, I would say this is my favorite tour.
By the way, somebody here said Truth Project is the best.
Yeah,
well,
it is. The Truth Project
So
is fantastic.
people will recognize you from the Truth Project,
probably
right?
from the Truth Project. There supposedly over 15 million people have been through it, but I would always say this is my favorite tour. Well, to some extent, I felt the same way when I was interviewing these scientists, and I'm saying, oh my goodness, this is the best of all. Because we were seeing things. So it's hard for me to answer that because Mount St. Helens, where we really started the film, Mount St. Helens was an overwhelming set of evidence. As I think Dr. Stephen Austin said, that Mount St. Helens is the Rosetta Stone for geology because we know exactly what happened there because it happened in our lifetime. And when we talk about all those layers, how in the world did they get there? We know how they got there.
And they got there very quickly.
And they got there very quickly.
And canyons carved quickly.
Yes, all of that happened. Granite, hundreds and hundreds of feet of granite melted away. The peat forming at the bottom of the Spirit Lake. So, but my mind also goes to the discussion on the soft dinosaur tissue. It goes to the discussion of the deep complexity of the genetic code that allows a kind to be able to, as God designed it, for one kind to be able to develop all the other different kinds, all the other different creatures and species below it. So it's hard for me to nail it down to one.
And everything, in other words, every point was your favourite.
every point, yes.
Okay, somebody here said Dal is the best.
He is. There's no question about it. This film could not have been
and
without
someone
Del.
said, "What? Can I see the movie in Australia?"
Yes.
Yeah, I want to know that. I want to know
It's
that.
already,
in Australia.
it's been showing for a while. So there are, I know that AIG in Australia and other creation ministries offer it. It's on our online, and there are many different ways to get it. So,
but it's not being shown in the movies and movie
no,
theaters.
it has
in
not
Australia?
been distributed in Australia because of just there wasn't a distributor that was interested in showing it in Australia.
In the movie theaters.
In the movie theaters. So yeah, you got to have a distributor that wants to put it in the theaters.
Ah, I see.
That's the key.
Well, Australians need to get interested. Well, Australia's a very secular country too. And it needs this movie.
But look how many all great creationists have come out of Australia.
Oh yeah,
there's a lot.
Yeah.
So I mean, Andrew Snelling, I think, is and yourself are really. I mean, it was really impressive. You guys have got a lot. I mean, you're a tough lot, Australians.
So somebody said, "Can't wait to see the movie." And anyone else who has questions, there's a number of different comments here. Bring your unsaved friends and colleagues from work. February 22nd.
February 22nd, Thursday, February 22nd. And it's interesting. We've seen this, and I think Del's had it. Del, I think it's an interesting story is the one, and it's probably representative of the young girl that met at college. And I think this represents what we're seeing happen with this film.
As a result of the movie.
Really, it's really the grace of the Lord that did this. I mean, we didn't expect there to be this kind of an outpouring and interest of it. I mean, it's a good topic, but it's a documentary. Yet I think the Lord, there's a lot of interest in people in this topic.
Yes.
So
Yeah, this was something that even I wasn't really prepared for because I thought this was going to be primarily for the body of Christ and people who were leaning at least towards this and to shore up that belief in the Scripture. But I went with my family to the theater when it came out last year. And there were a lot of people, I guess, who recognized me, and they came up and they were talking. Well, there was a young woman who came down, and you could tell she was very emotional, and she was waiting to the side, and you always know when somebody's waiting. So she finally came up here, and she said, she shook my hand. She said, "I want to thank you. I came here on a lark. I didn't plan to come here. I just came here on a lark." And then she started to cry, and she said, "Thank you for helping me understand that I don't have to do away with the Bible if I believe in science, that they're compatible." And then she started to cry. It was just really a really special moment.
Hey, somebody here said, perfect Valentine's present. Do I have an idea for you? instead of taking your girlfriend or wife out to some restaurant and spending a lot of money, right, and just looking into each other's eyes, you can say, here's what we're going to do for Valentine's Day. We're going to do it early, and we're going to go and see Is Genesis History, the movie, at the theatre, and we can look into Dal Tackett's eyes.
Oh boy, that
How would that
would
be?
a thrill.
Right.
So, somebody else said, is it on Netflix?
Yes, so the film is on Netflix, and
So some people would have already seen it on Netflix.
yeah, so it's funny, we're finding people with these, again, it's kind of strange, not what you expect. We have people that are binge watching it, and it's probably because it's so nice.
Binge watching?
It's not simple. Yeah, well, they'll come in, they'll say, I've watched it 8 times, or I've watched it 9 times, and I think it's because it's a dense film. I mean, this is not white bread, this is pumpernickel. I mean, we didn't realize that, but I think when you're making something that is the Minority Report, you kind of have to, we put a lot of data in it, and I felt we needed to, because so many people say that young Earth creation does not have data, it's all ideas, and so I felt I really wanted to let these scientists speak,
Right.
and just go on, and so we
And
tried to put
it's
as
just
much as we
filled
can.
with data.
It's lots and
You
lots
say
of data.
data.
I say data.
That
You
sound-
say data?
That sounds like Star Trek.
Tomato, tomato?
It's the wrong data. It's a different data.
Potato, potato?
Hey, somebody said here, I'm obviously the master of romance. I think so too. You know, when you think about the Valentine's Day idea.
Sure.
Yeah.
I did not realize that Genesis history would be in a romance, but you could probably put it in that category, perhaps.
Yeah,
that
it's a romance movie. You take your wife or your girlfriend to it.
Yeah.
That's how you make it a romance movie.
Buy her a box
Absolutely.
of Junior Mints.
So, well, we could go on for millions of years here talking
We
about
could.
all this, but I guess we need to, bring this to a bit of a close here. So, Dal, it's been great having you here today at the Ark,
It's been a privilege.
and Thomas. And February 22nd, there is a special showing in theatres across America. It was so popular, did so well, had such an impact that the Fathom event for
That's right.
February 22nd is going to be Is Genesis History, and they can go to isgenesishistory.com. And there's
Tickets on sale January 8th.
there's a new segment as the movie ends, and there's a new segment that was filmed here at the Ark with Dal walking around the Ark with 3 college students. That's going to be a fascinating segment.
It's a great discussion. Thank you, by the way, for letting us come film here. You've done an impressive job building this thing. I think everyone really, before you die, this should be a bucket list item.
should be.
To come see the Ark, because it's just, and I think you said it, every time you walk up to it, it's a little more impressive. And you come and you think, oh, I've seen this. Every time you come.
Every time I come down to the Ark, and it's been many times, as you can imagine, and I stop at the front and I look and say, wow. I mean, I never cease to be amazed how big it is, and that God would allow this to happen. You know what we did? Something that there were people in the church said it couldn't be done. To build attractions, we've got the Creation Museum and the Ark, build attractions, the quality of Disney, but that stand for the truth of God's word and present the gospel. And people thought it couldn't be done. And look what the Lord has allowed to happen. And people come from all over the world here. In fact, even on a cold winter's day like today, there are lots of people throughout the Ark.
There are people
today.
throughout, yes.
So, well, hey, thank you both for being here. And there's one more testimony here. Watch this movie. Wasn't sure what to expect. Had me captivated from start to finish. You need to be captivated another time, and go back February 22nd for the showing of Is Genesis History. Okay, one last question.
Yes, sir.
Just like you see in the secular world, is there going to be Is Genesis History 2?
There will not be Is Genesis History 2. What we're planning on, and Del and I have talked about this, is that my view is there are 3 questions the Enlightenment gave us. One was on Genesis, so is Genesis really a history? But the second one is the Bible true? And so the next documentary that we've talked a lot about doing it, we're already in the works for putting the pieces together, is to go look at the question really, so you got your phone here, how do I know the Bible that I see and read on my phone is true when it's talking about Moses going through the Red Sea, when it's talking about Isaiah and basically Sennacherib coming and attacking them. The events of the Scripture, how do we know they're really true?
Excellent.
And that's what
so
we look at.
you hope to do a series eventually.
It's a series, and so we look at things like higher and lower criticism. We look at inscripturation. We look at archaeology. We look at the New Testament, the Old Testament, canon questions. Questions I think a lot of people have is like, how can I really trust my Bible as being a good, accurate, authoritative book? And that's part 2.
Hey, you guys must have been reasonably exciting. You know why? I looked at the number of people that got online here to watch, and it stayed pretty well constant. So you must have been okay.
That's because of you and Dell. It's not because of me.
That's because you can.
Okay, great witnessing opportunity. I really mean this. It is a great witnessing opportunity. February 22nd. Make sure you go to isgenesishistory.com. January 8 tickets go on sale, and then theatres will be added as time goes on, and depends on the amount of interest, I'm sure, and all sorts of other factors. But February 22nd, there'll be another Fathom event, Is Genesis History, shown in movie theatres across America. But what a great opportunity to bring your friends, to bring your family, non-Christian friends, challenge them to come, pay for them to come,
Yes, and
bring them as a group,
Yes.
church groups, bring them, and you'll love the movie. It'll be challenging, lots of information, and then the news segment at the end, you'll be able to see the Ark and see some college students walking around with Dal that was filmed here today. With that, hey, trust it all goes well, pray it all goes well,
Thank
Thomas.
you very much.
And see you now, movie star.
I'm
You've been on my Facebook Live. You're now a movie star.
now a movie star. Thank you, Ken, for making me a movie star. I'm not sure how thankful I want people to recognize me.
So we'll pin right at the top of the comments the link for isgenesishistory.com. And with that, we'll say good afternoon here from the Ark Encounter in Williamstown, Kentucky.